All right, everybody, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here reacting to the first Denver Nuggets Summer League game as DaRon Holmes makes his return from injury. Other guys step up and provide some interesting things. I thought it was a pretty fascinating game. The first half, I wasn't really impressed with the way that Denver played. But second half, they started really getting going. There was a lot of fight on the offensive glass. There were some good things that the team did. We will talk about it all, or at least various notes that I have and various things I want to get through. But the first and most important thing, Denver loses on a buzzer beater. Jamari Bouye, excuse me. That was a great way to start off the show. He was okay throughout the vast majority of this game on the other side for Milwaukee, but he hits a clutch step back three. He's 26 years old. This is his fourth year in the NBA. He is still trying to break in. So not surprised that he had a good game. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that some of the veteran Milwaukee Bucks guards were able to do their thing. But Denver fighting back from that, and I think from a deficit on the perimeter, was impressive. It was good to see what happened with them. My guy, Jeff Morton, who I was talking with before, says, many of you don't know that Ryan also serves to talk to yours truly off the ledge of insanity. I was talking to Jeff about the quote that David Adelman was putting out there about Jonas Valanciunas being a point center. It's going to be okay. We'll talk about it later. But like, it's always interesting. You don't want to make sweeping conclusions from Summer League from either what somebody does, how somebody plays, or what anybody says. That is how Summer League generally goes. And if you overreact, then you get situations like last year with Jalen Pickett, who really it was bad with Jalen Pickett. I tried to talk about that in my article for the setup for Summer League yesterday. And I remember everybody, and including myself, being like, holy cow, this guy is really struggling. And then it turns out he is actually like pretty good in the regular season. It's just that he kind of carried that stigma over from Summer League for a long time. And a lot of people didn't really know how to deal with it. It was tough for me to kind of figure out, okay, is this guy ever going to really be a player? And then he got a chance and he played, and that was fine. Also, it goes the other direction where guys look really good and then they suck in the NBA. So like, it's not like this is not an unknown thing here. This is everybody understands the deal, or should understand the deal. Summer League is not the be all end all, but it should be fun. And so I'm going to kind of talk about it from a fun perspective mostly. Denver started this game yesterday with a lineup of Reese Beekman, who is one of the point guard inclusions from into the lineup. Denver, I think, has a major deficiency at point guard, kind of playmaking downhill guys who can go off the dribble, because their main roster guys, Hunter Tyson, Spencer Jones, DaRon Holmes, even Tamar Bates, not like awesome off the dribble players, at least from what I have seen. So you need somebody else who can kind of set the table, and Reese Beekman did that a little bit. Boo Buie came off the bench and did that a little bit. EJ Liddell actually did some good things. I was pretty impressed with the way that he moved and the way that he was playing. But Denver started Beekman. They started Hunter Tyson and Spencer Jones on the wing. DaRon Holmes played the 4, and Tyrell Harrison, who's about 7'1", played the 5. And kind of went the way that you would expect against a Milwaukee Bucks group that you've got some other guys that have been in the NBA before. Bouye, Andre Jackson, Chris Livingston, Tyler Smith, Pete Nance. I think all of them have played NBA minutes before. But like, they've also been at the end of the bench for the most part, and not really a surprise that they didn't do much. Although to me, it is kind of a surprise. Andre Jackson, somebody that they had a lot of hype in, took 2 shots, 2 threes, made both of them. Very weird situation for the Bucks over there as they try to figure out how to build around Giannis. Um, but Denver, they start out and Hunter Tyson makes his first couple shots. Tyrell Harrison plays reasonably well. Later in the game, he struggled at the beginning, but um, hard for guys like DaRon Holmes and Spencer Jones, who are more off ball players. You want guys who can create for them. Hard for them to get involved because, like, Reese Beekman's an okay point guard. Hunter Tyson, he's not really a playmaker for other people. He was like getting buckets for himself. He was posting up. He was moving off of the dribble and off of screens, things like that. But there wasn't any major mechanisms to get DaRon Holmes and Spencer Jones involved. Um, and then DaRon Holmes had a wing three that he attempted and went in. It looked really good. And that kind of took some of the pressure off, but it wasn't really until the third quarter where he started to get involved. They actually drew up a DHO. I believe that this was a drawn up play where DaRon Holmes effectively faked a DHO and drove the lane from the left wing and finished through a crowd. And it looked very athletic. It looked very good. And then it kind of got the juices flowing a little bit. He got a little bit more comfortable in that situation. The first half was effectively, all right, we're gonna see how you handle things. But then again, we're gonna let you cook at various points. So it was very nice to see DaRon Holmes not only making shots, but going off the dribble and being creative and learning how to use his body and how to use what he's been given in order to be effective at the NBA level. And so I'm very excited, first and foremost, to see DaRon Holmes get through the basketball game. That was the most important thing. But the second most important thing, he wasn't moving perfectly. I thought actually he looked a little rickety at times. Maybe that's the wrong word for it, but looked a little um, uncomfortable at times. But that's to be expected, right? That's not something that you are immediately looking forward. Like you're not going to get comfort immediately. It's going to be a long road back, and it's probably going to be 18 months, not just 12 months, 18 months before he fully feels comfortable and within himself. So this is going to be progress, and we got another step of progress today, and was very impressed. Some of the plays that he was making were very impressive. 15 points, 4 rebounds, did have a really nice block. Basically, kind of allowed somebody to drive next to him, turn the corner a little bit, and then he smacked the ball off the glass with a very, very large amount of athleticism there. Not only the recovery speed, but also the wingspan and the frame to kind of get that ball, and it was pretty easy for him. I can only imagine what it's going to look like when he actually like is moving at his best. So I'm looking forward to it. He showed great touch from three. That was the most important thing that we saw. But also he like looks like he can go off the dribble a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. He's going to like there are going to be a lot of times where he tries to drive and then drives into a crowd, loses the ball, and then like or he goes up and stays under the rim because of certain jumping angles and then gets blocked and things like that. But I'm not really worried about that. Just to see him play 24 minutes, to see him play well, that was the most important thing. And just a very exciting thing for the Nuggets, who like they haven't had a lot of like they've had young talent, but Deron Holmes was really supposed to be one of the higher ceiling players that they've added in a while. And I continue to think that he's a player that they can trust to like try to develop into the starting power forward when Aaron Gordon is ultimately ready to kind of transition into a bench role. I'm not sure how long that's going to be, but like Deron Holmes has that level of physicality, and clearly he has at least a level of 3-point touch that is very useful for the position. So you can already see the vision with him playing off of Jokic, him playing in the dunker spot, him playing on the wing in the corner, uh, and kind of spacing up that way. But then also maybe screening and rolling at various points. That's It's a very important thing as well. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good to see. Um, Kyle asks, did DA say confirm that JV is staying? Ryan, I'll get to it. He talked about it. I will get to it. Um, as for other players on the roster, because DaRon Holmes was just one guy that played, Hunter Tyson's the only other roster player. Then you've got Spencer Jones and Tamar Bates, who are two-way guys. I'll talk about those guys in the next segment. Hunter Tyson looked okay to me. There are people that were not pretty, like, they were not impressed with the way that he showed, like what he actually showed yesterday. I'm not sure I would go that far. I think that he's in a tough position, and the Nuggets are in a tough position because, again, they do not have a lot of on the ball creators. Reese Beekman is okay. He had 6 assists in 20 minutes, but really it was like he looked a lot more like Jalen Pickett than he did um, Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul or anybody like that. So you're not always going to put the ball in Reese Beekman's hands to set the table for some of these other guys. So Tyson had the responsibility as the returning guy of taking a lot of these shots, of trying to create some offense for the team when none was really able to be created. He did grab 11 rebounds. That was impressive. Couple steals. But I do think that there are clearly still weaknesses in his game. The athleticism to me is always going to be a difficult factor for him because it just feels like he has to try so hard to keep up in a lot of these situations. And then the moment he tries to relax, the moment he tries to like play a kind of a normal pace, somebody blows by him. He can't keep up at certain points. That's definitely going to be an issue that plagues him for his entire NBA career, how long it is. Uh, the other thing is that just not super efficient. A lot of guys are not super efficient at this level, though. But guys like Chris Livingston went 7 of 12. Um, Cormac Ryan came off the bench and went 6 of 11 and 3 of 6 from three. Uh, Tyson made his first 3-point shot and then missed the next five. And so you would like for him to be a little bit more efficient than he was. He'll get more opportunities to make some more baskets, but the hope is that the Nuggets can create some better shots and better looks for him. But I do think that one of the reasons why he wasn't awesome was because the shots that he's generating, the shots that the Nuggets are creating are just not awesome looks in general. And so the hope would be that Denver can get back to some better looks and maybe Hunter Tyson can benefit from that moving forward. But in terms of those debuts, I would say that DaRon Holmes gets probably like an A minus or so. There are certain things that I would have liked for him to do, would have liked for him to show, but I mean, it's his first game back from a torn Achilles. Like nobody's gonna really break the bank on that one. Hunter Tyson gets like a C minus. I think that that's probably fair. There are some things that like again, it wasn't a horrible like game by any stretch of the word. Still had 11 rebounds in 28 minutes and was hustling out there and was making plays. So don't want to belittle that in any way, shape, or form, nor should other people. But I do think that he's carrying too much responsibility on the offensive end, and Denver needs to find some other ways to get other guys involved without like stretching Beekman and Tyson too far as playmakers. So we'll see what happens. But tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the rest of the Summer League roster, some other guys that stood out to me. And then I'm going to go over David Adelman spoke briefly and shared some thoughts. I'll talk about what he said and some of the things he was really getting to on the other side here at Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Summer League's always fun because people they want to have these massive takeaways, but it's not really reasonable to anybody to have massive takeaways. Like Cooper Flagg yesterday went 5 of 21. Does anybody really think that he shouldn't have been the number one overall pick in the draft? No, not really. But 5 of 21 is also really bad. And so like it can happen to anybody. And the fact that like Denver's not having perfect opportunities here for other guys, not that worried. They do have like Denver does have an older roster. I was looking at this a little bit. They do not have anybody who's younger than 22, which I think is crazy. Now it's actually, I guess, not that much of a surprise because they didn't have a draft pick. And most of the guys that are kind of in that 18, 19, 20 range that are heading into the draft are getting drafted. Like they would not be coming out and leaving college unless they had a promise. And so Denver, like a lot of older veterans, a lot of guys that probably not expecting too much at the NBA level anymore. There's not a lot of growth potential, I would say. The Nuggets, again, they're kind of doing a very similar thing that Calvin Booth did, was they're looking for singles. They are not looking for home runs. They are looking for guys that can help them in minor ways across the roster. And the hope is that you hit a little bit better than you did before. But we'll see, like kind of getting into some of those players. Spencer Jones. I thought Spencer Jones looked great defensively. That's one thing that I do think stood out with him. But the problem is that he had 1 point on 3 shots, 0 of 2 from 3, including a big air ball in the fourth quarter. Doesn't really get involved that much. And I can understand why. Again, it's really hard for those guys to get involved sometimes in mechanisms that make a lot of sense. But like, where's Embiid says Spencer Jones couldn't hit a wide open 3. The funny thing is like we watched him hit wide open 3s and even relatively contested 3s in the Nuggets gym, in the Nuggets practice gym. So like, because I was there, I watched him. He made a pretty impressive shot. He can do it. The problem is that when you only have such limited opportunities, like he could go 2 of 4 next game and it'll feel pretty good, or he could go 1 of 4 and the percentage will still be really bad. Everybody will over index on the percentages, and that's unfortunate. But like all we have data wise from Spencer Jones is that his shot does not look very good, and that he shot 1 of 17 at the 3-point level at the NBA level last year. Now, what I will say, he shot like 37% at the G League level from 3 last year. And it's something that a lot of people they don't bring up, but he has shown in a larger sample size that he can shoot. The question is whether that's going to translate to the NBA. And I don't blame John Wallace and Ben Tenzer and those guys for bringing him in and bringing him back, because the dude looks shredded, man. He's moving great out there. He is like one of the reasons why, like Bouye was okay, but like Spencer Jones is 6'8". He is he's closer in size to OG Anunoby than he is to Jamar Bouye or anybody like that. And I thought that like Spencer Jones defended pretty well. I thought that he guarded pretty well. The problem is that can't be your only skill. And he's got to develop something offensively that he feels a lot more comfortable with. And if he doesn't, then it's never going to work out at the NBA level, because you can't have defensive specialists anymore that play like consistent roles. It just isn't the thing. You have to have guys that are capable of hitting an outside shot, that are capable of hitting, like, and getting to the rim and or maybe making some passes. Cody says Andre Roberson made a whole career from playing defense. Yeah, first of all, it didn't last that long, in part because of the injuries. But second of all, That was 15 years ago, and now we're kind of in a new era here where these guys are being asked to do so much more than they were before, and the players that you are counting on, like, I think that if Spencer Jones turns out to be like an 80th percentile or better defender in the NBA, then yeah, Denver should probably take a chance on him and continue to try to work on the offensive stuff. I really do think that, like, he should, like, it shouldn't be this hard. And he should be able to find some opportunities. I do think that he'll continue to work on it, and hopefully he has a game here at Summer League or multiple games where he's just hitting shots and it looks a little bit better. But the initial debut is tough, and we will see what happens. But I think he looks great physically. That's the thing about Jones, is that he looks great and he's moving great from a defensive perspective. I thought that his actual slides and his actual ability to close space on some of these guards, even while he's way bigger than them, was really impressive. He's slimmed down a lot. He's moving really well. Um, it's just going to be about whether you can do the rest of the stuff. So we'll see whether he can. In the rest of that starting lineup, Reese Beekman, he was okay. He was about what I expected. 7 points on 5 shots, 6 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals. He did enough to kind of help Denver get into some sets and really set the table for some players. But most of the time, the mechanism that he used was kind of setting the table for guys like Tyrell Harrison, who was a big 7-1 behemoth in the middle of the floor for Denver. And I thought he used his size pretty well in this game. If you look at the plus minus, Tyrell Harrison plus 14 in 24 minutes. Denver actually was very functional while he was out there. They didn't have a lot of breakdowns at the rim. They were able to feed him the ball on a consistent basis, and it just made a lot of sense. I liked that. I thought that was good. Denver closed the game with DaRon Holmes at the 5. More so than they had before. And so I do want to see Deron Holmes at both the 4 and the 5 in this case. But Harrison, I thought, looked like, I described him on social media last night, like he's just good at being big. It took him a little bit to kind of get comfortable, but in the fourth quarter, he was making a lot of plays, both as an offensive rebounder and just as somebody who was catching the ball in the lane and forcing fouls and forcing double teams and just doing the things that you would want a big guy to do. And so that's nice. That's good. You want somebody who can handle that. That's a good kind of analog for Denver trying to deal around Jokic and around Valanciunas and saying, okay, you're going to have this big monster in the paint or on the perimeter or whatever. How do you work around that? How do you do that? Like, what are you looking for with those guys? So hopefully Denver can continue to figure out how to work with Harrison reasonably well. But we will see what it looks like. Dayon says Tyrell started bad, but then woke up and played well. I agree. Like it looked pretty bad. And there was one play that he had at the beginning of the game where he had an opportunity to dunk the ball, but instead tried to lay it up. And it rolled off the rim, and I was yelling in my for Summer League, by the way, just yelling in my living room, being like, "Dunk it! You're super huge! Like you are massive! Come on! Like let's go!" So hopefully that's not a mistake that's made again. But yeah, that's effectively most of the roster guys in the starting line. Let's talk about Tamar Bates really quick. I thought he was subpar in this game. Did get 3 steals, but I thought the first steal was it was just a ball that was kind of thrown to him while he was stationary. It wasn't anything that he did. But 1 of 2 from 3, again, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like his profile in college was effectively really efficient, like extremely efficient as a 3-point shooter, as a free throw shooter, doesn't take enough of those shots. Like whether it's a free throw, whether it's a 3. And that's exactly what happened in this one. 8 points on 9 shots, but he was 1 of 2 from 3, 1 of 1 from the free throw line, 2 of 7 from 2. Did have 3 steals to 2 turnovers. He was a +7. I actually was not impressed with his defense. That's something that I'll be watching and looking for a little bit more. Um, he got lost a lot, and I was pretty surprised by that. Surprise, like he is the youngest player on the roster at 22. So we'll see what happens with him, and then whether he can kind of get things together a little bit. I won't be surprised, by the way, if Denver changes up their starting lineup after one or two games and says, "All right, Tamar, you're going to be starting either at the 1 or the 2." That just it wouldn't shock me in any way, shape, or form. But Denver, they're obviously going to give Tamar Bates some run here. They want to see what he can do. I want to see him get some threes up. That's the thing that I'd be a little bit concerned about for his development, is that if he's not getting up enough threes, then he's kind of floating a little bit. He's more of a slasher at that point, and that's just not how the NBA works right now. You need to be, especially for a team like Denver, where their actual level of 3-point spacing was not very good last year because they had so many guys that would want to slash, that would want to cut, that would want to get into the paint. Sometimes you just need to be a guy who takes the three. And so I'm hoping that he grows a little bit more willing to just let it fly. But again, Denver did not have a lot of mechanisms where they set guys up perfectly. And I'm not really expecting it either. This is Summer League. It's a very chaotic environment. That's probably not what this environment is for. It's just about guys getting out there and getting some reps and running up and down the floor and trying different stuff. But that's neither here nor there. Bates was good. EJ Liddell, I really liked. He was credited with 12 points, 7 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds for 11 rebounds total. Was a minus 13 in this game. There were some mechanisms that weren't necessarily working well around him, but he was one of those guys that I thought was very reliable. And he looks like small, but in a good way. Like he could fit at the small forward position. One of the concerns about Liddell when he was coming out of Ohio State was that kind of traditional power forward type, not necessarily knowing where he's going to fit in the modern NBA. Like he's a Paul Millsap type, but not necessarily like in the era that Paul Millsap would be successful. But now Liddell, especially 2 years removed from that ACL tear, he looks more like a traditional small forward to me than he does like a traditional power forward. So maybe that's just it's just me. It's probably not something major for anything of this, but I do want to see more of Liddell. He seems like a guy who like his off the dribble game was very good. I was shocked by that, if I'm being honest. I forgot that he was such a good player off the dribble, but handled that really well. Wouldn't surprise me if he became the best kind of wing for Denver in this summer league time. And if he was the guy that got that third two-way spot, I'd be happy with it. But we'll see what continues to develop there, what continues to grow. And some other guys will eventually get some opportunities too. So we will have plenty of opportunities to evaluate everybody, but I do think it's going to be fine. Okay, now time to get to the David Adelman quotes. There was one that was going around that was effectively, actually, let me see if I can pull it up. I know that Vinny Benedetto put out there that quote. Vinny Benedetto of the Denver Gazette. David Adelman says that he sees Valanciunas as a point center who doesn't need a true point guard in the same lineup. DA names DeMarcus Cousins as Denver's last backup center who had a similar skill set to Nikola Jokic. Pretty funny that this tweet from Vinny went viral. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on what David Adelman said. What I will say, this is not reporting. Guys are just having fun, man. Guys are just having fun at Summer League. I don't know how serious that actually was in terms of, yeah, we'll see what it ultimately looks like. I want to see if he could play some point center. when people think of point center, they think of, holy cow, he's going to run some pick and rolls. He's going to go off the dribble. He's going to do that. Like, that's not what David Adelman was saying. Effectively, what he's talking about is somebody brings the ball up the floor, somebody enters the ball into the post or into the high post or at the elbow or something like that. And then the big man makes decisions with the basketball. And whether it's a DHO, whether it's a back cut, whether it's passing the ball to the weak side for a three, stuff like that. That's all this was, man. That's all this was. I am not concerned about that quote. Effectively, like, what he's talking about is that Bruce Brown is not going to be your traditional point guard. Tim Hardaway Jr. not going to be your traditional point guard. Julian Strawther, same thing. Denver doesn't have the personnel. And I don't necessarily blame them for that either. I don't think they need the traditional point guard in order to be successful. It would be nice to have somebody else that can handle the responsibility, handle the basketball, but it's not like the only thing. It's not the be all end all for any NBA bench, especially when so much of Denver's lineups are going to be about switchability, defense, and guarding. Like, in the playoffs, what lineups are you actually throwing out there from a guard position standpoint? Well, when Jokic is out there, if the starters are out there, then it's Murray. If it's not Murray, during the playoff run, Bruce Brown was the backup point guard for Denver, and he was not a traditional point guard, and it worked out fine. And then when Jokic left the floor, Murray came back on. Murray would be your stagger, and I kind of expect that to be the case going forward, especially without Michael Porter Jr. You're going to have a whole bunch of different guys out there, whether it's Jamal Murray, whether it's Bruce Brown, whether it's Julian Strawther, Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, DaRon Holmes, Peyton Watson. You're going to have those kinds of guys around Jonas Valanciunas. And the good thing about it is that they can all handle the basketball. They're not going to be perfect. Like, they're not going to make perfect decisions. But one of the reasons why Denver's going with this internal development route, and one of the reasons why I don't think they could bring back Russell Westbrook if they were going to do that, is Russell Westbrook needs the ball, man. Like, that's his skill set. Like, he's your traditional point guard. He's somebody who, like, you want to put the ball in his hands because he can spray it out to everybody else and make their lives easier. But in order for those other guys to grow, especially like Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson, they need to have the ball in their hands. That's just how it works at the NBA level. So if they're going to grow, you do not want another point guard out there that's just going to take up all the touches, that's going to take up all the possessions. And so you could have Jonas initiate, you could have other guys initiate, whether it's Bruce Brown, whether it's Jamal Murray staggering. Like, this is not the quotes that I think people should be getting mad at. It's just not. I'm sorry. I refuse to take the bait from people. Everybody is like looking for a reason to get mad. The stat that I also shared with Jeff, who was panicky and was going to talk about this and be like, what are they doing? Among all 27 centers who played 1,500 minutes last year, Jonas Valanciunas ranked 7th in assist rate. 7th. Like, I don't think he's the 7th best passer at the center position in the NBA, but I think he's in the top half. I think he's capable of handling some stuff. And the thing is that he does play a lot like Jokic. He does play like from the same mechanisms with the DHO and with the seals in the post and getting on the offensive glass and then setting picks and popping for jumpers, things like that. He does do a lot of those same things. So is it crazy that Denver could operate in a similar way and that Jonas could see the floor in a similar way to Jokic that guys like Zeke Naji and DeAndre Jordan couldn't? Those guys were never going to be able to handle that level of passing, that level of playmaking. Jonas can. Like, he just can. It is not crazy to say that. And so I am not going to get mad at David Adelman for like, oh my God, like They said they don't need a point guard. Holy cow, what are they gonna do? That's not what this is. They're gonna share playmaking responsibilities. And you know what? They're probably gonna be pretty good. So the other thing is like, what is the point guard, like the point center responsibility? Well, you enter the ball into the post with Jonas, if especially if he's got a mismatch, and then you see, okay, can you create offense, whether it's as a scorer or as a passer when they have to double team you? That's all this is. It's going to be fine. Ugh. He also was very excited, David Adelman was, about the Cam Johnson edition, the Tim Hardaway edition, the Bruce Brown edition. He was talking about getting veterans in there that know what they're doing and are very excited. This wasn't a slight at the young guys. It's just you need vets. And coaches love to have veterans. They just do. They know because they know they can trust those guys to work the offense the way that they need to. And he talked about Cam Johnson's skill set a little bit in terms of his ability to be a backside playmaker, somebody who can move off the ball and be creative and also just run the system. I think Denver's system is going to get better with Cam Johnson in there than when Michael Porter was in there. Now, I talked about crediting Michael Porter and the person and the player that he became for Denver. That stands true. But what I do think is that Denver's going to be able to be more diverse from an offensive perspective and run more interesting and creative and dynamic things because Cam Johnson can handle it in a way that Michael Porter really couldn't. So I'm looking forward to the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. Denver's already got their foundation. Now, of course, they're looking forward to DaRon Holmes maybe jumping into that equation. But again, even if he doesn't, even if it's just like a slow development process, Denver's got a full roster that they can handle some of those responsibilities. So there's not a lot of pressure. It's just about getting out there, seeing what you can do. And I'm excited for this. Like, again, Hunter Tyson's probably the 14th guy on the roster right now. DaRon Holmes is probably 11th or 12th, somewhere in that general range. So this is a low stakes thing for Denver. That's the most important thing. We got a buzzer beater super chat from Mr. Exquisite Nugget with the 199. He says, are we going to be in a same or different tier than OKC? I think they're in the same tier now. I think they are in the same tier, especially from a playoff perspective. OKC didn't really get better. Like, you guys saw all of the extensions that they just did over the course of the last couple of days, right? Like, they are about the same. They're about the same as they were. And I'm curious to see where their growth continues to come from. They're still a young team, so they're still like, they'll handle certain situations better. But in terms of the mechanisms that worked against Denver this last year, I'm not sure how much those are going to work still. Like, does Denver have a great matchup guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams? No. Like, I think that Aaron Gordon will get worse guarding Jalen Williams. Christian Brown might get better. That is something like that will continue to help, but like Jamal Murray is going to get worse guarding those guys. Cam Johnson will be better than Michael Porter guarding those guys. So Denver's going to have to figure out the defense, but I think they will figure out the offense. I think they'll figure some stuff out, and I am very excited to see where it goes from here. Okay, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I had initially said that I was going to do 3 shows this week. I think that's a lie. I think I'm probably not going to do a show until Monday or Tuesday. If something else pops up over the weekend and we have to talk about it, then I will. But for now, I wouldn't expect another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys very soon.